at 8:30 a.m. on 11/17. Certification of open meeting law requirements have been met. This meeting was posted and we all got notice. So I will move to item number 3 on our agenda, roll call of committee members. Nutter here.
Adams here.
Becker here.
Waldera here.
Sorgi here.
That's it? Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Are there any changes? Is Mike in the room?
Yes, he is.
Okay, Mike and Dave, are there any changes you need to make or move things around? Or is it okay as is?
It is fine.
I make
Okay.
a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Oppose? Great. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes of the October 3rd meeting?
Yes.
Are there
I
any
also make a-
changes? Go ahead, Dawn.
I was just gonna make a motion to approve.
Great. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Buzz, if you could handle the public call-in, if there is any, I will allow 3 minutes for participants in our community to call in if they have any questions or concerns. The number is 715-538-1894. Anybody on the board have anything they?
Does anybody on the floor have a
Hi,
public
Jean.
comment? While we're waiting.
Is our meeting being televised?
It is.
Oh, good, thank you. Thanks.
I wonder, maybe for public comment, I'll just ask this question because I'm more or less curious. Have we ever done anything down at Petrick Park for Christmas, like lights or anything fun like that?
Not that I'm
think
aware
so.
of. However, that is something that I'd be very interested in doing. Mike and I have talked about that, especially with Petrick Park now going to be open year-round and having the access road plowed. It certainly would be nice. It might be a little late to put something together for this year. At least something, big. It's not to say we couldn't, maybe reach out and see if, wanted to put something together. But I think that's an excellent suggestion. Just the way the campground's set up, it would be perfect if we wanted to plow a path around, those electrical, water campsites where there'd be a small light show. You could have a little bit of a thing there, so.
I mean, I'm sure that, La Crosse has some sort of a, what am I trying to say? A patent on the whole Love light show thing or whatever, but I still think it would be really cool to do something similar to that, especially for a food drive, people drive through, see the lights kind of thing like they do in.
Yep. And my thought on that was actually that it could be the potential for really being a, countywide thing. Maybe we could reach out to some of the service clubs to, sponsor a light display or something like that, and you could have countywide participation. Would be something that would draw people, not just from, Arcadia, Independence, Whitehall area, but, from the southern and the northern parts of the county as well.
Well, I think that all
That's a
sounds
big-
really great, but probably not going to happen yet this year, right?
Yeah, it's, we're going to have our new parks person starting next week. I'll talk about that later. But that's something that I think, it's the kind of thing that I'm going to want him to focus on, is developing those kinds of programs and year-round uses.
Thanks.
It's such a great idea. It would be really fun. Thanks,
For the
Dawn.
notes I'm here.
What, Jean?
I said, just for the notes, I'm here because you guys started the meeting at 8:28.
Oh, I'm sorry, my clock said, actually, my clock on my computer said 9:30. It hasn't
Bob
caught up
Petrick is
with
here too.
time yet.
Before we get
Okay,
into this,
good.
we ran into this problem before. Is it possible to have somebody conduct a meeting from in this room here with the time delay and the breakup of over the telephone?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm usually always there, but I have a doctor's appointment in Eau Claire, so I need to leave here at 9 o'clock.
And Buzz is taking over at that point, so, yeah, I get it.
I have public comment. I know I brought this up in the past, but we really, if you want the public to be involved, the website has to get updated. It still has the October meetings on there, so there's nothing about November on the website. I could not access committees. This is less than an hour ago. Could not access any of the committees, so thus I could not get an agenda or see any past minutes. I could access, if I want to learn about how to do finances, I could access some of the other committees. On the homepage, cannot link, it will not open Petrick Park, it will not open Economic Development, it will not open tourism. But I could open, like, to the county treasurer, I could open some of the other links. So I'm just bringing it to the attention because I had another family member who also said, for a while I thought maybe it was my PC. But when another family member said, I can't open anything on Petrick Park, there is some breakdown occurring. And like I said, I probably spent a good 15, 20 minutes checking other things. I mean, I could pay my taxes, it didn't say I could pay my taxes, there it says bring it in. But there is, I didn't look that up. But, a lot of the links are working, but the ones that pertain to this committee, I could not access anything.
So are you saying that none of our minutes are listed under the general website where they have agendas and minutes for each committee?
Jeannie, this is Dave. I just checked on my laptop down here, and everything seems to be working, but it's, we do have temporary outages on some stuff sometimes. I couldn't get on the internet, period, on the courthouse internet when I first sat down this morning here, so.
I agree, I can get to the website and get to Petrick Park and all of those things, but I do know that sometimes the agendas and things aren't necessarily up to date. So I'm going out there now to look at that, and I got the membership here, but agendas and minutes, let's look at that.
I'm telling you, what I see on Dave's right now, I did not see on my PC an hour ago.
One of the things that I noticed when I first started on here, and I wonder if it's still an issue for people, is if you search Trempealeau County, you will get the old website. And none of that, and it should redirect you to the current one. And I mentioned that a year ago. And it does not appear to be redirecting people.
I believe the old website address is owned by somebody else. So I don't know if that's part of the issue about transferring.
But if you go out to the old website, it looks valid, but everything is very out of date.
Right.
We can't do anything to get that removed. It comes up as the second search in Google. I mean, the current, the actual legit Trempealeau County website comes up first, but you're right. The second listing in Google is the Trempealeau
The old website.
spelled incorrectly
Right.
one, which I don't know why anybody ever did that.
And
but-
I may have clicked that one. I will go back home and double check.
Yeah.
Because it did not look the same as the one that you have.
the old website
Yep.
every time.
You still, because somebody else supposedly owns it, we can't get it to redirect?
Does it look like that?
Why
I'm not
can't-
I'm not an IT person, but that's my understanding. We can check into it.
We'll check into it again to see.
So
I'll check
I
with
did-
Tim
I
and
did
find
click
out
on
what
the old
issue
one.
is.
Right, but this is something, and I remember Dawn, when she brought it up
Yeah.
the very first time, that was one of the first things she brought up, because you couldn't get on it, and it was gonna get looked into then. We're dropping the ball here or something, because if it happens a year later, nothing got corrected.
Yes.
Well, that comment, the comment that I remember from Dawn was, dealing with finding the correct Trempealeau County Facebook pages.
Well, that might have been brought up in this
Yeah,
meeting, but initially
right.
when I even
Okay.
interviewed for the board.
Sure.
And I was trying to research information.
Yeah.
I got to the old website and it doesn't redirect.
Yeah.
And the second one down does have even more listings, you know, when you look at it, than the first, because the first one, to me, truly, when I looked at it, I went, oh, this looks kind of bogus, because it only had Trumbull County and one little line. And then the next one.
It has a lot of things listed under
A lot
it.
of things to click on. So that is my error. I will make sure I tell my other family member to always click on the first one, even though it looks bogus.
We'll pass the comments along to IT, and, I mean, it's a countywide issue, not just our committee. And we'll see if we can get some action on that. Honestly, I hadn't seen that website in a while, so.
It still looks valid.
At 9:40, are there any other comments or questions? If not, I will close public comment at 9:40 a.m. The next agenda item is number 7, recreational pond grant update. I'm throwing that to either Mike or Dave.
It's Dave. It'll be the
Okay,
Dave
thank
show
you.
today a lot. I might have to have
Okay,
Mike
thank
talk
you.
just to give me a break. So, since we last met, we got some good news. One of the projects, or maybe multiple, I'm not sure, but projects ahead of us fell through with the DNR, so we were next up, and the DNR sent us an email, and we are going to get funding for the Peachwood Park Rec Pond project.
We are.
We are.
What's the level of funding, Dave?
Oh, God. It's 219,000 based on our estimate. So, as a result, things have kind of picked up quickly here. And one of the things that we did find out from DNR is there's some kind of archaeological or historical site adjacent to the property that we intend to build the rec pond on. So they want us to do, or requiring us to do, an archaeological survey of the 5-acre site that we got from the Schenk family. So, because that work can't be done during the winter, we're pushing to get somebody out there to do it in the next week or two, because we're kind of backed up against, not being able to do it then till spring. And that's really important that we get that work done now, because over the winter, the idea is that we're going to get that design put together. And, if there is some site that was found, an arc site that, had to be avoided, then that's going to factor into what they have to do with design.
Who does that?
Well,
Who does that work?
Yeah, there's a number of firms. The one that we, so I talked to SRF Consulting, and they've had good luck working with Mississippi Valley Archaeology Center out of UW La Crosse. And so I got a proposal from them yesterday, and it's a little uncertain. So they said if they had to do, a full shovel archaeology survey of that thing, and that doesn't mean that they're digging up the whole thing, but they're apparently, turning dirt in select sites. That would be $4,700. And I do believe, and although I have to get confirmation, that would be an eligible project cost under our grant. We'd have to, add it in or whatever. I'm still trying to get confirmation on that. But that's the high-end grant. So part of that, I know part of that land was plowed and planted this year. So where it's plowed and planted, they don't have to do shovel work. Where it wasn't, like where we parked cars and stuff this year, for Ashley, they will. So Mike and I talked about it, and, we said we'd bring it to PTED this morning. Our intent's just to move forward on this. We think that that's, sort of within the direction of what you've told us to do in the past, with proceeding on designing this rec pond project and stuff like that. But I just want to bring it up because it's, $4,700, could be less, still a significant amount of money, but it's something we need to do to move forward with the project.
Have you checked with anybody else for a bid? I mean, just to see if
Yeah.
comparable bids would be?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly can. This is somebody that we know can do the work, either later this week or next week. So it's not just a question of cost, it's going to be a question of availability.
But if you
But-
didn't check with those other people, you don't know if they could do it.
Yeah,
next week,
I
too.
haven't, and this is just, since Friday is when we got the notice on it, so, yeah.
Short turnaround.
Yeah, so I started
I know,
with
but
them.
it's still government money, and you
Yeah, no,
should have
yeah.
another bid.
We agree.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, we can see if there's anybody else that's available to do the work, and see what we can get for costs.
Just so you got comparables, is what I'm
Right.
saying.
When do you have to commit? If there's, you got 2 weeks, right?
You got 2 weeks. You got 50 degrees all next week.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get.
Yeah, if we don't get this done before winter, it pushes my understanding, we wouldn't necessarily be able to do design or any work, and would push the project into 2025. Because, I guess maybe very late in 2024, because you're talking about waiting on this to get done in what, April or May, and then you're working on design then, and then you're doing bidding, and then to get the contractor in, maybe you eke it in before the end of the year, but it really does impact the timing of the project.
So is there any committee approvals you need to move forward with this? That's kind of the question I think
Yeah.
Artie just brought up.
Yeah, if you got this last week and you got one bid, another telephone call doesn't take that long. That's.
Yeah,
and in county money, and same thing as the city money, any money, it's always good to have comparable bids.
Yeah, well, I will reach out to a couple more, first ask, are they available to do the work? Because that's almost more
Yeah.
important than cost at this time, but if they are available, then see if we can get a cost estimate.
Yeah, because then you can see if they're in the ballpark or not, at least, if they're
Right.
way high or maybe.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely, we'll work on doing that.
Thank you, Dave. What was the bid? 4,000?
4,700, it's a sum
Okay.
not to exceed.
Okay.
Again, what they told me is that if, those spots that, have been plowed basically are not gonna have to be, it won't be as labor intensive, so it'll be less.
Okay.
Oh, just to let everybody know, I'll have to leave around 10 too, because I got to work. Just a heads up.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Are there any other questions or concerns, issues regarding the pond grant update?
No, good news, though.
It was very surprising.
Yeah.
And, but like anything, what comes with it is, all of a sudden, there's a lot of work that we need to do that we
In a short amount of time.
that we weren't expecting.
In order to make this grant eligible, it's likely they would need a signed grant agreement. You can't do the work before the grant agreement's signed, is that it?
We can do engineering work, and like this kind of work we can do. We can't start construction until the signed grant agreement is in place. And I know this sounds weird, but,
Is this cost shareable then if we don't have a signed grant agreement in place?
yeah, this is grant eligible work. The design and this, I believe, the ARC survey, I believe, I saw something somewhere that it would be eligible. I'm trying to get confirmation on
Yeah,
that.
I guess the big confirmation you want to check is, till you have a signed grant agreement sometimes, I know the programs I worked with, till that grant agreement's signed, you can't charge anything against that.
Yeah,
grant.
well, engineering and some other costs you
The
can in this
DNR,
case.
we specifically asked that question,
Yeah.
and they specifically told us, engineering costs are covered.
Good.
And I kind of, I need to ask the specific question, but I kind of think from this conversation we had with this Jessica from DNR, Mike and I did, that because this is kind of related to engineering, because it tells you that this should be an eligible cost too.
Oh, I'm sure it is, it's
Yeah.
just want to make sure.
But the grant agreement, we probably won't have in hand signed until next spring. Just because what they need to do is they include, these grants that they're tentatively making, and that's what's called tentative. Although what that just means is that they've got to include it in something they do to the National Park Service to get the funding that they pass along. But our plan
Thank you.
always was to proceed with the design engineering stuff and have that, ready to go by the spring. So I don't see anything in our timeline that would be held up. It's just, and in fact, we may be able to bid this project even in the spring, subject to the condition of, receiving the final grant agreement from DNR to be able to proceed.
Great. What a wonderful thing. What a great surprise. If there's no further questions or issues about item number 7, we'll move on to item number 8, 2023 Spring Fall Tourism Marketing Recap, River Travel Media, and Dave.
Yeah, so I'll just kick this off and give Amy and Brent a chance to get settled here. So again, in 2023, we worked with River Travel Media as really our experts in online and digital stuff. They did some work with our Facebook page and, did different digital advertising. I'll let them run through all the specifics, but I believe this is the 3rd year that Trempealeau County and River Travel Media have worked together. The first year, I think, was 2020, 2021. And it was a small grant that we received, I believe, to do some tourism marketing during COVID. And then the following year, we got a pretty substantial grant, $19,000 to do destination marketing, again, kind of tied to some COVID funds. This year, we didn't have any grant funding, so had to work this into our regular tourism marketing budget. And what I will say is that I think that the money we have spent with River Travel, and I think it was $6,000 this year, over a spring-summer campaign, and then a fall campaign that, for the first time that we did, has really been money well spent. And Amy and Brent have a PowerPoint that I am going to bring up. Why don't you guys just maybe, if you want to just say a few overall things, and I'll get this figured out.
Before Amy and Brent start, I'm going to leave it in about 9 minutes. So Buzz promised he would take over. I'm sorry that I'm not there in person, but I have an appointment in Eau Claire. I had asked Lori to be there, but I didn't hear from her. So if you just see me disappear, thank you, Buzz, for covering.
No problem.
All right, so I found your PowerPoint.
Yeah, just thanks again. River Travel Media, based out of La Crosse, Wisconsin. We've been in business since 2017. 99% of our clients, I would say 99%, are tourisms, chambers, city entities, promoting tourism, getting the word out. Amy here can also just kind of talk about it, but combined, we've had 35 years of experience in tourism and marketing, and we've had a great relationship with Trempealeau County. We reached out on some of those grants and helped write those in the very beginning. Our main goal is working with small communities that don't necessarily have the resources to help them have their own tourism sort of campaign or entity and kind of help with that to alleviate those issues.
And we like to work with smaller groups like this where you might not be able to hire a full-time marketer to work for you, so then we can come in and do that kind of work for you. So like Brent was saying, we're primarily tourism-based, and my name is Amy Gabay. We've been, like Brent said, doing this since 2017, I think is when we first incorporated, which is shocking to me when we were talking about this recently, how fast the time has gone by. And in talking about Trempealeau County, just a quick overview of what this campaign was. We went May through September. It started out primarily as a digital advertising campaign. Yeah, it's all right if you don't transfer to the next slide quite yet, because I'm just going to give a little overview.
I'm just trying to figure out how to get it to the next one.
So it was May through September this year, primarily digital Google ads and a sweepstakes, and then we swapped over in August 14th to add social media advertising and social media management. So this is our team here, and like it states, we're targeted reach for businesses and communities and destinations and trying to bring more visitors to your area. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Google Analytics, this does not look strong simply because Google went through an entire revamp of their analytics program, which kind of dumped all the old analytics in some of our clients, things that match up real well, and you just can't compare. So this is only from September 7th when it went live again. So you can see that the primary page utilized was these are all the visitor pages on Trempealeau County. So the home page is the visitors. And then agricultural was popular, fishing is popular. Go ahead and on to the next slide. So for our sweepstakes contest, sweepstakes we find to be really helpful in that it grows an email list of people who are interested in coming to your region. When we do these sweepstakes for our clients, we find that the email lists that we grow have by far significantly higher open rates than the industry average for tourism, because you are hitting on people who need to come to your community in order to utilize that sweepstakes. But I'll let Brent talk a little bit about the program.
Yeah, one thing we use with these sweepstakes, also encouraging the general public locally, because word of mouth is the best sort of advertising, especially if your community is advocating for that for people to come here. We also have about 8,000 entries that are used for this. So that's from people sharing the sweepstakes, liking your Facebook, liking your other social media accounts, visiting the website, watching videos. So it's a real cool tool to get people engaged. That split second they sign up, and then you can send additional information later. So it's kind of those split section moments for people to sign up. You can move on to the second one.
So for social media management, again, that started August 14th in a specific push for fall in Trempealeau County. Now, those numbers look absolutely spectacular, especially when you look at the percent increase, which is like 2,600% over on Facebook reach. The reason that is so high is that the year prior, our social media advertising program went April through July, and in 2023, it was August and in September. So we're comparing this year against a year that did not have the advertising pushing on social media. But the numbers were fantastic with over 100,000 Facebook reach. And as you can see, when you look at the sort of the little pie graph there, it does skew primarily to women, which they're the ones who are making that decision as where people are traveling. So those are the people that we want to hit.
And a tool for this is that we supplement what you're doing. So we know people on the ground here are going to have the best information, the most timely information. We supplement it with the campaign. So we're always driving people back to the website, always driving people back to new content, and always driving people back to a sweepstakes to opt in. Sometimes you think it might be repetitive, but it's really about educating people and driving people back. Just like you might watch TV or listen to the radio, you might hear the same ad 3 times in a row. It's about frequency, and it's about patting yourself on the back and just yelling to the rooftops of what you guys are offering to visitors.
The next slide, please. So here's social media advertising, which is a bit of Brent's baby, so I'll let him talk about the advertising program for social media.
Yeah, for the budget, we reached over, we sent over 242,000 impressions, reached 95,000 folks. That's based on the drive market, so within 2.5-3 hours from this area, and drove 3,500, just under 3,600 clicks. Combined with the digital display advertising, I believe we're around 700,000 impressions, which is a great reach for you with that budget that we had. Plus, we were doing the additional sort of, social media posting. It was a good campaign. People were interested. A lot of comments about, being there before or going there for the fall or going for apples. There was a lot of engagement with it.
Brent, can you help me understand what an impression is?
Impression is just like, when it pops up in front of you. It's the same thing as like a billboard down the street or an ad play on the radio. It's an impression.
So it's how many times did it pop up, not necessarily whether somebody engaged with what popped up.
Yep, the engagement would be the clicks.
Okay.
For this specifically, but sometimes you might have a campaign that just sort of the broadest reach possible where you're trying just for impressions. It's just like the billboards, again, that frequency component.
So when you see the reach of 95,417, that's the number of people. So each person saw that at least 3 times, but you want that repetitiveness.
And these swapped up throughout the campaigns. These changed. We can go on to the next one. So on this one, just example, another close to 500,000 impressions. You add that up around that 700,000 clicks. So we're hitting about I'm doing fast math here, but 8,000 clicks to your website for that. Again, these images, there's actually hundreds of different various images, ads that were displayed. So Dave, had some great branding photography. We built some text around it, some call to actions, some things to talk about. We basically submitted this information and drilled down from these 100+ ads into the best performing ads to reach these different groups. As you can see there, Chicago, the major markets, 2.5 hours, 3 hours away is where we're going after. But it's engaged. People are clicking on it. It was a good campaign. It was one of the better ones we ran, and I think we ran about 20 this summer. So it's actually, people are going there and they're interested in learning more, and that's where we capture them if they land on the site, where they sign up for the sweepstakes, sign up for a newsletter, and so on. So this is stuff you'll feel, not necessarily just this summer. We're hoping, of course, it'll be next summer's, maybe that we've hit these people. So it has that reach, even if you don't do anything next summer as well.
I have to say, when I look at that map, I guess I was thinking the trade area would be a lot smaller, and when I look at that map, I'm wowed at the breadth and the distance. So I really like that map. It really tells a story.
Absolutely. I mean, even looking back at some of your numbers, even during COVID, I believe it was I'm sure Dave's talked about this, about, you lost the least amount of spending in your area. So people know about this area. It's just sometimes we just need to remind them about it.
And I'd have to say, of all of our clients, Trempealeau consistently impresses with the analytic numbers that we get back. I think that you guys have some beautiful photography, you have some beautiful regions, I think you feel rural enough that people are getting away, but you're close enough that they don't have to travel that far to get there. And so we consistently every year see really good numbers and analytics coming out of Trempealeau, that people are clicking through, that they're engaged in it. And so we're always happy when we get to present what the analytics look like for you guys, because they always make us look good. But that's a big part of that, is that Trempealeau has a lot to offer and people are interested. You can go ahead to the next slide. So that sort of wraps up.
Yep, it was kind of a smaller campaign this year than what we've done in the years past, but it's still hitting some good markets out there.
Yeah.
Also, just a reference on the website thing, if we ever do any sort of project for you, you own that 100% outright. So I just wanted to say that. So everything we created for this campaign, completely owned by you guys. You have every access for it.
Thank you guys. It's always good to see how well we are doing in Trempealeau County, because I think sometimes we forget.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and again say, how great it is to work with Amy and Brent. I've learned a lot from them. And, when things need to get done, sometimes government moves kind of slow just because of, how we're structured, and they can move fast on some stuff, including like this Facebook campaign that we did in the fall. I said, hey, we talked, and it's like, let's make a big push with Facebook, get it out there, during August, September. And so what was our buy? It was like $1,500, wasn't it? It was pretty substantial.
Small. Yeah, it was small, but it had really, really good results.
But I think we spent like $1,000 or something like that of what we spent with River Travel. I think 1,000 of that or so was dedicated to Facebook advertising. And to give you an idea, we can't even do that easily if we wanted to do it ourselves, because, with working with Facebook, you have to have a credit card, and we don't have our own credit card in the department. And getting the credit card to do that, more hoops than we can jump through and be nimble and timely with stuff. So that's, a way they've been able to help us. But, I just think going forward, they're going to continue to be part of what we do with marketing. We've got the bigger marketing budget for next year. So we've had some conversations with the River Travel already that we'll be pinning down here in the next month or so about what we're going to do next year. And I know last month there were some questions about like, well, what are we doing? What is the reach and stuff? And that's why I said, it was ironic because the analytics report, that this presentation was based on came in the next day from these guys, because we weren't really done with the campaign at that point. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Just an FYI, if you're traveling in the southern part of the state or the county, the Tundra Swans are at the Flyway. I had a friend who was driving through Trempealeau yesterday, and she let me know that, and she lives in Bayfield County, and she said, this county is like the most beautiful. So get out and enjoy this weekend.
Thank you.
And thank you, guys.
Okay, I'm gonna introduce Dave again, and then I have to leave. Thank you again, Buzz, for taking over. So we are on to item number 9, Economic Development and Tourism Manager Report.
Well,
That's you, right?
Yeah, it's me, yep. In terms of tourism stuff, I mean, I think we just had a pretty good recap, so I'll try and just keep this part brief. In terms of economic development, attended the Mississippi River Regional Planning Commission meeting last month in La Crosse, and continue to work on broadband with Pepin County, Buffalo County, and Pierce County, our 4-county consortium there, I guess you would call it. And we've been trying to narrow down, what we want to include in an RFP to get some assistance with, doing just where, these access issues in terms of physical access to broadband, but then it's also looking at cost issues, so this whole broadband grant program is broadband equity and diversity. They want to know, the state wants to know not only where is the internet, but how much is it costing? Because if you've got internet, but it's costing you $300 because satellite is your only option, I'm making numbers up, but it's kind of true. Like, I think satellite Starlink might cost you a couple $100 a month. Then that's still not considered to be, good equitable access to internet. So that's the kind of thing we're working through. Earlier this summer, there was the acronym is WISER, W-I-S-E-R, and I don't remember off the top of my head what it stands for, but it was a survey that they were pushing statewide to get people to, access either by phone or online to indicate what kind of internet access they had and what the cost was. And there wasn't a lot of response from Trempealeau County. And again, part of that might be because people don't have internet access, or they don't care that their internet is this speed or whatever. But we are going to be pushing that again with the Department of Land Management newsletter that's coming out shortly. There's an article in there and a link to how to do the survey or how to call in. So it would be helpful. It's not critical, but it was, it is some good information. And the Public Service Commission was running that, and they've got some mapping in terms of, where the responses came from and stuff. It's all just feeding into a larger data set. So.
Dave, do you do any work with any of the townships in Trempealeau County to get their grants going, to see if they can get some broadband or fiber put to their?
Yeah, I haven't worked with the townships up to this point. I know some townships have been, have been working on stuff. So this, it's not necessarily answering your question, I don't think. But this particular grant is just to document where service is and isn't. Because then I think in 2025, they're estimating that Wisconsin's going to have like about $2 billion coming through the pipeline to actually build out some of the projects that are that would be identified to areas that they don't have it right now.
But you have to get them the correct information to start with.
Yes,
That's
which is what we're doing now.
Biggest thing.
Yep. Yep, that's what we're doing now. And, again, I attended a workshop back in September up in Rice Lake that the Public Service Commission did along with UW Extension. And what they said then was that the priority for that money will be on those unserved or underserved areas. And so the good news about that, I think, and what positions us well, is they're not going to, I mean, that's where the money will flow first. So it's not going to flow to urban areas first.
That's what they say now. yeah.
That's what they say
Let's
now.
hope that's
I mean,
true.
that was what I thought too. I was like, well, that sounds good, but at any rate, we need to work through that process, get something put together, and then, really identify, specifically where those areas are. And once we get those areas, then I think it's over the next, 6 to 9 months is where we'll start to engage some of those townships, in the process too, because let's face it, that's primarily where it's gonna be, is in the unincorporated areas. Because you look at the map of Trempealeau County internet coverage, and most of the municipalities, the villages and towns, villages and cities have pretty good coverage. It's those in-between spaces.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the villages, they only have copper. They can't get the speeds with the copper, so they're gonna have to be redone anyway.
Right.
Dave, where did you say this survey is?
What is the survey?
What and where would you access it?
Oh, if you go to the Trempealeau County Economic Development Facebook page, I posted it there back probably in August or September, August maybe. It's going to be in the Department of Land Management newsletter, which goes out.
Dave, do you have to access it through Facebook, so people that aren't on Facebook won't have?
No, you don't have to. There's a direct link.
Okay.
There's a direct link to the survey.
On the internet, with work quite a bit, and I've never seen that pop up as something to even.
And I just searched Wiser and like nothing.
Yeah. I'll send the link to the survey out to the committee. And if you want to, share it with people, you can. So the PSC was supposed to send postcards to all of the residents of Trempealeau County, like this summer, encouraging people to do those. I don't know that they went out, or, I didn't get one. But then again, they might have been sending them to, places that they thought were documented, like non-service or underserved areas too. So. But we got some time, and I think I'm gonna kick that thing up again and try to get some more responses from people, because I think it would be good information. Same article I used for the DLM newsletter, I could fashion into a press release and send to the newspaper too. I think that would probably be helpful.
I was wondering the same.
Yeah. So that's what I've got for tourism economic development. There's certainly more going on. Oh, one thing I'll mention that kind of will tie into a later agenda item is I did have a pair of meetings last week with, I guess it's 2 weeks ago now, with Arcadia. The first one was with the Economic Development Committee in Arcadia. They haven't been the most active, but I think they're trying to get active again. So we talked about a whole host of issues, including housing, including downtown development, including their flood control project that they're working on down there. But housing ended up being kind of the main focus, and put a pin in housing for a second. On the downtown development stuff, they were asking about what kind of resources are available, and what I did mention to them is that they actually have been a Connect Communities community with the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation for several years, and that my understanding from WEDC was that they have not been really active in it. So I did kind of implore them to use the tools that they have, because it is a good program. I've had experience with that program before. But Whitehall and Arcadia, what I was told shortly after I started this, was that those communities hadn't really been that active, hadn't been doing the required reports even to maintain membership or retain, that eligibility in that program. So that's kind of the first thing I told them that they should focus on, and I did offer my assistance if, they needed some help in putting together meetings or doing some of the activities, but that's a really good program for them to get into.
What is the program called again?
It's called Connect Communities. So you probably haven't heard of that one. but you probably have heard of the Main Street program. So Main Street program, it's, it's a nationally recognized program to assist, with developing and strengthening downtown communities. And that is also run through the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. To be a Main Street community, you have to have a full-time director. And so that ends up being a barrier for communities under a certain size. With Connect Communities, it's kind of like Main Street Light. You get a lot of the same resources that are available, but you do not have to have a full-time director. So, and I think it's only like a couple $100 a year to be a Connect Communities community.
Looks like Connect Communities is mostly for revitalizing downtowns, right?
Yep.
Which is a good thing. But one of the things, and maybe I think this is probably coming up, so I'm moving ahead a little bit, but one of the things that had been noted in a recent survey of Wisconsin was the need for housing for single families, initial housing typically, or that midpoint cost housing, which isn't really going to be likely to be, they're not probably going to be looking for that downtown housing as much. So is there anything going on in that regard?
With housing?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so let me just finish the Arcadia thought. I mean, so the next day we did have a meeting with a different group, the mayor, a couple council members, city clerk down there, was Mark Tallman from Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. I invited him to the meeting, as well as Rebecca Giroux, who's with the Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority, WHEDA, WHEDA. And, just to talk about some different things. So in Arcadia, the need is for a variety of different kinds of housing.
Sure.
So it's single-family housing. It's also multifamily housing because, like workforce housing. And so their question is, well, where do we start, right? And there are actually a number of programs, and, we're going to talk about it under item 11.
Right, I think I got ahead of myself.
No, that's okay. But Rebecca, coming from WHEDA, was really helpful because there was a number of, I think it was 4 bills that got passed by the legislature and signed by Governor Evers during the last legislative session that provided some pretty substantial dollars to push housing programs. And you know what? Let me just bring this up here and look at it real quick, because there are some really good ones that communities should be thinking right now about, like, how do we make ourselves ready. Get rid of that. Open this one. There we go. Okay. Technology. Share screen. There we go. So this is the new WHEDA bipartisan housing legislation package. And it's funny that you asked about downtown housing, Dawn, because that's the that's the first one, is a Restore Main Street loan program. And this is money that's going to be eligible to for communities to get to be able to loan out. And it's primarily to cover costs to improve housing located on second and third floors of existing buildings with commercial space on the ground level.
Okay.
So it's a great program. And, just, I'm being sarcastic, the little problem with that in Arcadia is most of that downtown commercial space is in the floodplain. So, until that gets out of the floodplain, there's a question as to how much of this stuff
We're
you
going to get out of the flood.
can really do. Well,
There are mitigation efforts anyway that are
yeah,
being put into
right.
place.
So, it's,
Ain't gonna get it out, that's That's too
Yeah,
bad.
it's not that it's totally out of the question, but, you know, it's a challenge that Arcadia's got. So then there's one called Vacancy to Vitality Loan Program. And this is kind of an interesting program, because this one is specifically aimed at converting vacant commercial buildings to workforce housing or senior housing. So like, you know, when I was in Arcadia and Rebecca was talking about this, I'm thinking it's like, well, gosh, you got that big, you know, Shopko building that, you know, I think Ashley's using now, but I don't even know that they're using it, you know, that much and stuff like that. So that's something you could, you know, look at convert. I mean, but there's all kinds of, you know, examples of that kind of thing. But it's, you know, again, something that's out there. This one was, I got to look back here to see. Oh, yeah, these, I thought they had the dollar amounts on these, but I guess they don't. And then, let me see, the Infrastructure Access Loan. So this is one where the WIDA and the state are making some money available to cover costs of installing or upgrading public infrastructure like, you know, roadways, utilities and stuff like that to make land available for, you know, for housing. And then the last one is a home repair and rehab loan. WIDA historically has done a lot of home repair and rehab loans. This is just adding some money. And I think all in was like $600 million in these 4 programs. And one thing that I will note, and this will come up in item 11, is that two of the main requirements for communities to be able to participate in these housing loan programs is that they will have had to have updated the housing portion of their comprehensive plan within the previous 5 years, and that they had to have done, since January of this year, a review of the different regulations and stuff like that that deal with housing, you know, an update. And the idea is to make sure there's no barriers to housing development there. So it's urging communities, requiring communities really to look at zoning codes to make sure that there aren't things out there that are barriers to housing development.
Thanks.
That it?
Yeah, well,
Should we move on to the park update then, Dave?
sure. Park update, water got turned off to the campsites Friday before last. We still have, I think, when I counted yesterday, 6 guys out there, might be 5, that have taken, you know, are still taking advantage of the fall housing, or fall hunting special. It is housing, yeah. 8 over the weekend, yeah, I saw that. So we've actually been pretty decent for the fall with, you know, with activity out there. Interesting thing, just with getting out and talking to people and stuff like that. We've had, I think, 3 or 4 people from out of state, a couple from Michigan, one from Minnesota, and, you know, so the wheels get turning in my mind about like, okay, well, you know, if people, you know, are really, interested in coming here from the UP or, you know, wherever else or whatever, you know, to hunt in the fall, you know, maybe we do some targeted advertising, you know, in advance of the fall next year to those places and let them know about that, you know, fall hunting special. See if we can't fill that up a little bit more. But yeah, it's been a decent fall for activity out there.
You should maybe be publicizing it right now at the end of the season to look forward to next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's fresh in their head.
Yep.
And telling their buddies.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the people I've talked to out there, they just love it. You know, they, you know, we might have to look at raising that $400 rate a little bit, but that clearly has attracted some people, and you know, so maybe we don't, maybe we keep it that and get more activity in there and then raise it somewhere down the road. But it's been a good draw.
Either that or throw an incentive in there, bring a buddy program.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent idea. Let me see. was out to the park yesterday, changed out the SD card and the batteries in the trail cam that we have out there that Reed just told me a couple weeks ago.
Didn't know it existed?
Well, he had left me a bag of stuff and told me it's like, yeah, we'll have to do that at some point. And then he texted me a couple weeks ago and said, yeah, the batteries probably need to be swapped out. So I found the trail cam, which is good. We've got our new Parks and Rec coordinator, Matthew, starting Monday. So
Can you share with us Matthew's history or?
he's currently
experience?
working for the City of La Crosse Parks Department.
His last name?
Oh, gosh.
Gast, G-A-S-T.
Yeah. And Matthew, I think, you know, what impressed me, I won't speak for Mike, was he really seemed pretty savvy with, you know, social media and promoting stuff and program development. So I think he's going to be a really good fit. You know, we want, you know, the emphasis and the idea with this position is we want to grow a program. It's not just going to be managing Petrick Park, it's going to be developing a broader parks and recreational system. And I think his skill set and his enthusiasm and creativity will be a good fit.
We had a competitive pool, which was really exciting. Not necessarily a large pool like we might have had 10 years ago, but it was a competitive pool. So very happy about that.
I got a question, so I've been in the back of my head since I got on the board. He's in charge of the parks. What's his title? Exactly.
Parks and Rec coordinator,
So and who does he answer to?
me.
How did you get, were you always over there, or was that
No.
just, no? Why did that happen?
That was our restructure.
That was part of that reorganization that,
Oh, I missed a couple meetings there,
Yeah, I
so.
think-
yeah, there was a reorganization
I
that,
apologize.
yeah, there was a reorganization that we did in the department. Mike can talk about that.
I'll get you an org chart so you can kind of see it. It lays it out.
Well, why did you change it? Was it not working? I'm just asking.
Yeah, well, one of the things is we wanted a greater, you know, the previously, it wasn't 100% Parks and Rec position. It was split between conservation and parks. We had an employee, Reed wanted to be 100% conservation, so that, so he wanted to move to the open position in conservation. So we had an opportunity to do some changing, and so this was all part of this, trying to develop a parks system that included that recreation and event element, and as like Dave said, trying to promote Petrick Park, develop it as a park asset, and kind of make it a more robust program. And then this way too, I think it, from a kind of skill set perspective, it's someone that's skills and experiences specifically towards parks and tourism and recreation, and it's not kind of trying to walk in two different fields. So I think that strengthens the program and the position. And we didn't use new money.
So this new guy's just gonna be Parks and Rec? That's it?
Well,
No land management?
yeah, no conservation. He'll run the snowmobile program, he'll manage the county parks, he'll have recreation programs, and help out with social media marketing. I'll get you some information, so.
Yeah, I appreciate that, thank you. I missed a couple meetings, so that's.
Assume he can come to next meeting and introduce himself then?
Sure, yeah,
That'd be great.
yeah.
Since September, since Reed left, up to now, I've been getting a good taste of parks, which is good, because I feel like, you know, since I'm gonna be supervising this position, I should know what some of the day-to-day flow is, so, you know, been reviewing invoices, approving bills, you know, doing all that kind of stuff, and that, I do think, Mike and I have talked about it, and I do think going forward, even with Matthew's arrival, that I'm probably going to still maintain the, you know, primary primary control, like on the rec pond grant and administering that project, just because, the complexity of it and dealing with agencies and stuff, that would be a lot to throw on somebody. And since I've been in on that since the beginning with helping write the grant, I think that makes sense.
Will he be groomed into kind of the development phase?
Right.
Heading that up, then providing oversight and the day-to-day stuff out at the site?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so last thing on park update, we're still on park update, right? Yeah, is, we've, as soon as Slobby Electric can get out there to the park, we are putting 2 electric heaters in the claw shelter, one in the kitchen, one in the dining area. That bid ended up finally, after a lot of different machinations, being $2,196. So we're just gonna move forward.
We're going with gas for,
Yeah, that's
we
what
were
we-
going
Yeah.
with gas
Going on gas.
all
Yep.
the way along.
Yep, we ended up settling on electric.
Who settled on
Yeah,
that?
who made that decision?
Who made that decision?
Re,
No, Reed did not. He was gone by the time this, because we argued about this at the last meeting, that somebody dropped the ball, whoever was over that department dropped the ball, because
Yeah.
that should have been in last fall. And then they were gonna do it immediately in the spring.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, nobody's doing anything
I-
out there, and it was
I-
gas all the way along. And that's the reason they didn't do it last fall, remember, because it got.
Too late.
Too late to put the line in the
And that
ground.
was gonna be
Yep.
this spring.
I don't remember seeing anything about a gas estimate.
No, it was all gas. Electric was never talked
Yeah.
about. Never.
Well,
No, when you stutter, you're making something up.
I am not. Because when I say, when I agree with you and say there was a gas, that's not making something up.
That's all that was talked about. We never talked, we didn't want electric because electric's so expensive.
Right.
You're so much cheaper with gas.
The committee approved, I think, $3,600 for a gas ceiling heater in the claw shelter. The bid that was approved, for whatever reason, would not return her calls, would not, just fell off the radar screen. We also had significant input from community members on addressing another option, because they were considering providing a donation for electric. And we did have conversations about that input from our community
That
donors.
was gas, that was a overhead.
No, we brought, I don't
It was
know.
overhead, that was, I think Dreamy, that was, when they, given the heat.
Adi, I don't know if it was when you weren't at a couple of these meetings, but it definitely has circled a couple of times where we had this conversation about the gas, and then there was significant donation to getting the heating, and then there was consideration through that donation to do a different source.
Right. And one of the things we're trying to get clear on this is, one thing, we want to get an agreement with those donations of what it goes for. I know we haven't gotten that documented yet, but we would like to get that. And, one of the challenges in all this has been multiple quotes coming from different places, and trying to pull those together and make sense of those. If this committee truly wants to go with gas and go that route, we can certainly do that. And we will need to find a heating company that's willing to do that, and we currently do not have that.
Well, I think it's lack of effort, because everybody they build hundreds of new houses every day, and people get furnaces all over. They build commercial buildings, and people come in. You can get it, you just have to stay on them, I agree. They don't probably get back to you as much as they should. Everybody's suffering that because they're in demand, so they don't have to call back. And everybody goes through that, and I understand that. It just had, I just think that we should have stayed on top of it. Keep making calls. If they don't get back to you, call them again, call them. And
So-
that is our job, is to stay on top of it and get it done. And I might have missed a meeting where you guys voted on electric, but the only change we ever did was direct gas heat to overhead radiant, like they have in a fire station, where that one I was part of. And either one would have been sufficient. It just, I don't ever remember us ever talking about heat, because We just didn't want to have,
If the committee truly wants to go that direction, I would appreciate reconfirming that direction. We will
Well,
go
we
that
don't have a
direction.
quorum.
I had made a comment the last meeting.
Was
I was
Kevin
willing
off?
to help you.
Isn't Kevin here?
No,
I
you
guess
gotta
we do
leave
have a
for,
quorum.
or wait.
Oh, he just left.
he,
No, he's still there.
Kevin, you on?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know that we can vote on it, though, it's not on the
It's
agenda.
not, no.
Right,
Well,
but
so-
here's the thing. Just give us some direction. You don't have to vote on it. It's previously approved. If that's, just give us a vibe. If that's really truly direction, we'll go that direction.
All I'm gonna say is, this was one of these loose ends that was, that I inherited. And I knew there was some, desire to get the heating done. I'm not sure, how this developed, but at some point, quotes were provided by Slobby about electric heat along with some other stuff, and I think Doreen wants to weigh in here. But there's some money also that's been donated to put some fans in, in the cloth shelter. And so, I think this looks like a reasonable quote. I get what you're saying about electric versus gas. I don't know how much these heaters are gonna get run, and I don't know that, how much money we would save on gas versus electric. What I do know is that this project can get done yet this fall, versus if we're starting over from scratch with this other thing. If that's the direction you wanna give me, then I'll call Slobby and say, don't put us on the schedule, we're gonna go a different route. And then it'll be next year before we get something done. That's just the reality.
So our family already has given some money to be put towards some fans. Because Slobby was there previously putting in electrical for the campsites, that's how come the bid went to Slobby, is how I understood it. But when we gave the donation towards the fan, and our family would give some more to help pay for, we just wanted to make sure that the electric that was there would support the fans, and that whatever heating system, that's not our family's concern, whatever heating system, that there wasn't extra electricity or a need for conduits, additional costs, do it correct the first time. Now, the bids that came in for the fans, and I'll be quite blank, Fort Worth, we thought could probably be plugged into some outlets, make sure there's enough electricity going there. The cost for the fans and what Slobby sent, what they need to put extra in, is far more than the heating. So my family said, why is it costing more to put fans in than it costs for heating? So I think there has to be some other footwork going on here, because it just seems a little bit too much for fans to come. My brother added up, and I don't have the cost in front of me, but close to $3,600.
And that wasn't even gonna include the fans.
Yeah,
So-
it was a lot.
just
And
That's not-
and the
Damn
bid for the
nice fans.
heating is
That's
21.
not something we're moving forward with right
So-
at this moment.
So that's something we have to really look into in regards to that.
And one of the things we looked at too was with those gas heaters, there's a fan built in, you shut the heat off and you got air movement right with the fan itself.
There is with these electric heaters, they
And
have a
with,
fan.
and with these heaters too, when we looked into it, said, hey, there's fans that can run from there. So there has to be a little bit more footwork done in regards to this.
I apologize, I was not at the meeting where you guys had voted for electric, but I was always from
No,
last
they're never-
fall to this summer, it was always gas, and then I missed a couple there.
I don't know if we specifically voted on the type of heat, I guess, is the thing, but I know we had the discussion
There was
about
always a discussion
options.
about gas.
So
Well-
I'm comfortable going with gas. I'm very comfortable with that, and I think we should do that. And I think we should go out and get new bids because it's been a year since we got those bids.
I can get a gentleman before the end of the week to give us a look at it. I mean, he's that responsible of a man.
You know, I'm just re-looking at this bid for the heating for the electrical. It says furnace/AC units. So, but, yeah, that's what the bid said. So I'm not real sure about that. Right here it is. Furnace/AC units.
AC would go good there.
And then it has later, just says heater.
Yeah, it's not.
So,
It's not AC. So, I mean, I've heard a bunch of different things. So if you want me to kill the electric heaters with Slobby at a cost of $21.96, then, well, Kevin's on, give me some direction, and we will kill that.
Should we?
I don't know if that's I don't know that that's the direction. I've heard different opinions.
Just a quick thing here. I know I work with Slobby Electric, not that it has to do with necessarily the bids, but I worked with Slobby Electric with my other job in farming, and I haven't had, let's just be blunt, not the greatest luck with them, and they seem to be kind of greedy. That's just working with them with my other job. I haven't had luck, and this seems to be just like I dealt with. They're sneaking in things or not being accurate.
Do we need a motion then, Mike?
I think previously, we have a motion to do, I think it was last fall, $3,600 for gas. I think we should get new bids on that and proceed with that. That would be,
So we don't need a motion, we'll just move forward with the existing motion.
yeah, but I think we need to update the bids based on, we need to get new prices, because it's been a year.
Okay.
And we don't have anything on the agenda to make a motion, so it'd be,
Well,
you couldn't make a
Okay.
motion
Can't
on.
make it anyhow.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Give them
don't,
direction, but that's about it.
yeah, I don't even know if because it's previous motion from the committee from last year, so we're just working off of that.
I guess I would just suggest, let's get several quotes, several different,
At least two.
well,
Yeah,
at least
yeah.
two, but I guess I'm just wondering, let's understand the quote that we have for the electric, because it sounds like there's some confusion surrounding that.
There's not confusion on the heater part of it.
Okay,
It's the fan stuff. To be clear, there were 3 different quotes provided. One was for the heater, that's the 2 heaters, and the electrical work involved with that's $2,196. That's the one that, based on previous action of the committee, I told Slobby to go ahead with. So if we're not going to go forward with that, and that's what it sounds like, then I will call Slobby today and email them and tell them we're not moving forward on that.
I guess is the opinion of I don't know enough about this stuff. So is the concern, as I understand it, is the expense, ongoing expense, if we went with the electric.
I just have 2 issues. One is, I just was surprised when all of a sudden one person makes the decision to go electric. 'Cause I don't ever recall seeing it, even in the minutes, that you made a motion to go electric. And we had passed a motion over a year ago through the committee that go with gas, and it was pretty much all settled. And I know, and then Bree talked about the fans, but like Robbie says, with the gas furnace, you do get air movement with that. If you go with the radiant, you don't, but it's more of a constant heat. But the gas was always discussed, and the electric is what caught me off guard. I wasn't part of that. I don't think there's ever a motion to go to electric heat that I can remember seeing in the minutes.
So we have, in August, Kloss Shelter Heating. We are looking at a donor to start the project. Lally will look into radiant heating options.
That's the gas.
That was, well, it wasn't gas, that was an electric radiant heat. And then I don't, again, and I apologize, I'm not trying to throw Reed under the bus or whatever, but in the transition, all I know was that we were looking at this radiant heat thing, and Slobby, yada, yada, yada. And, then for some reason, that about the time Reed left, radiant heat fell off the table in terms of, I don't know if it was gonna be a cost issue or whatever. But then, Slobby suggested that, there's these other, like wall-mounted heaters that they could install that, so that's what, I had them come out, take a fresh look at that, as well as the other, electrical needs there would be for installing fans, and that's what produced the 3 quotes. Getting those 3 quotes all together, in one place proved to be a little bit of a challenge, but finally did that. So, again, I don't have a horse in this game. I don't really care. I don't know when we get down to it what the real difference would be between operational costs for gas versus electric. I mean, instinctively, I think people think, and it's probably true, that gas is, but, if we're talking on the order of like $100 over the course of a year, I mean, I don't know. Nobody knows.
The only thing is if you said Slobby was gonna put in baseboard kind of like heat.
No,
Is that what
it's
you're talking
wall
about?
mounted.
They're wall mounted in the,
Same difference.
Yeah, but on the on the wall, but it's baseboard, or is it up in the ceiling with?
No, I believe it's wall mounted.
I know
I-
it's up in the ceiling the way
Ceiling
I
mounted or
understood.
wall mounted? Because I don't want a
I thought it
baseboard
was
heat.
ceiling
It's
mounted.
not baseboard.
Well, then it's ceiling mounted.
Insinuating the same as like they have in a motel room.
Right, and you wouldn't want that out there because you have people rolling up, getting next to them or standing there.
2 5-kilowatt electric fan, forced heaters, mounted in wires. Heaters have their own thermostats. They have fans built into them. So, I don't know. I just want to get the work done.
That's all we wanted. A year ago.
I know. And I mean, I observed these things, without being a part of it, previously. And I know the committee is frustrated that the work hasn't been done up to this point. I am too. I'm just trying to move forward on this thing. So,
so I think that, Audie, your concern is that wherever we would mount the electric heat source, we want it to be up high enough to not potentially cause a safety concern or
Yeah.
fire hazard. So we'd want to know where are they mounting it.
I believe it was supposed to be ceiling mounted.
I mean, I think that's a I guess, is the committee really wanting to pursue the gas quotes still?
Yes.
Okay. So then we want to get gas quotes and we want to just understand where these would be mounted then.
All right, so I'm going to tell Slobby for now that we're putting this on hold. And then we will get something hopefully by December, and then we'll return this to the agenda and decide gas versus electric.
You'll let Dave know who you're thinking
Yeah.
of?
And in the meantime, we'll also maybe do some research to see if we can find, like, cost stuff, like annual operational costs for gas.
I think that's a good idea.
It's just going to be turned on episodically during
Right.
periods of use. So it's a few times a winter.
Late fall, early
Spring.
spring, a couple times a winter.
Okay.
And the same would hold true for the fans. They would not be running continuously, it's only when there's a vent there and people feel they need to turn the fans on.
Right?
So we need to keep the place above freezing though? Is water there all the time?
No, we do not need this heat to, we drain the water.
So if it gets used in the winter, there's no water.
No water.
Just basically a warm-up shelter.
Yeah. And the committee has not decided or decided on ceiling fans. I don't believe we've had that discussion. With you and staff, we talked about the need, but we haven't yet to have that discussion with the
Yeah.
committee, so.
I guess the only concern that pops up is, does just a small area get heated or does the whole room get heated?
Right.
You put a spot heater in a big room.
The gas propane one is usually sized properly for the space.
As would be the electric, I assume.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the fans that were being considered were not your typical ceiling fans that blow straight down. They would be commercial fans placed like in the corners, blowing air around, oscillating.
Box fan.
well, not a box.
What I mean on that
Well,
style.
Kind of on that way, but then
They would
oscillating, so they would move back and forth. But that has not been decided. That was just what family members thought would be the best for that area to move air around.
Can we move on then?
Yes.
Good. Number 11, housing initiative.
Mike, that's you, I think.
Okay, okay. Just a little bit, there's been interest in, from elected officials, board members regarding housing. Housing is, can be considered as an economic development issue. Sometimes it's also a land use issue. And so Dave has been working on some of these issues as well. And so we thought we'd bring it up. He talked about it a little bit earlier as well. But one of the aspects of this that we'll probably take to Environment and Land Use Committee is what Dave mentioned regarding the evaluation of regulatory barriers to housing. So we'll be doing that analysis, and if there's communities in the county that want us to work with them to do that, we'll do that too. But we're also going to be taking a look at other housing options that help improve livability in the county, such as accessory dwelling units, and then also the various supply issues that Dave talked about earlier. So this is stuff the department will be working on in cooperation with other communities as well.
Where are we at with the comp plan update as a whole?
The state requires a 10-year update. That being said, there's no comprehensive plan police out there. The individual county plans or town plans that we have out there voluntarily put in a recommendation that they update the plan in addition to the 10-year mark, update it again at 5 years. I've reached out to 8 townships in the county regarding offering our services to work with them to do that 5-year update. I've heard back from one town, and that town wants to skip the 5-year update and focus on the 10-year update.
It's not an issue then.
I don't think so. Personally, the 5-year update is not needed because comprehensive plans can be amended at any time when the need is desired by the community. And to put a 5-year update is really, you just got done doing an update and then you're barely working on implementing stuff and you're already doing an update again.
Okay.
It's inefficient use of time and money. And we're seeing that reflected from the responses from the towns I've contacted so far. But if there's some out there, some towns that want to do a 5-year update, we'll work with them.
It depends on what they want out of the plan, right?
Right, yeah. And it's really important that we don't want to force an update on a town. We want a town board to be enthusiastic and willing about doing that update. And so some of this work here is about working on implementing items in the comprehensive plan and not doing a plan update. It's actually, let's work on implementing the plan and putting our resources in that area.
Sounds good. Anything more?
There was a study done in the county here 3 to 4 years ago, the UW system. It did a housing study on this. And basically it said for single family and stuff, there is a shortage of it. But the majority of these places right now were remodel houses and stuff like that. What they're looking at is people to stick out and put apartment complexes in.
The trend, one of the trends of younger people in their choice is not to own, it's the rent. And so a lot of times also tied to affordability that ends up in the marketplace showing up in multifamily housing. So.
I think initial steps to just start looking at this again is a really good idea. I think there's many different avenues that could be looked at. I just know that the study that I read that came from a county association meeting was very specific about that mid-dollar housing for single families, so like initial starter homes or that type of housing that is in particular needed to draw workers for teachers to bring their families in, for healthcare workers, for those types of workers to bring into the county or areas that you're looking to develop.
One interesting thing that came up in the meeting with Arcadia, and it's not the first time I've heard this, is, for instance, finding senior housing or assisted living, developing that within a community can oftentimes free up housing as well. Because there's a lot of folks that are staying in their homes longer than they probably would like, just because there's no options of where to go.
100%. Working through that with my parents right now.
Yep, so that's, so there's all kinds of different ways to attack, but at the end of the day, too, to develop new housing, it also takes developers that are willing to do it. And frankly, here's one of the challenges with being in rural Wisconsin, rural America, is that, the return on investment or the money that they can make is a little tougher to come by than it is just like, for instance, in one of the suburbs of Eau Claire or La Crosse or something like that. It's not impossible. It just requires some, different approaches. And there's developers out there and there's money out there to do this kind of development. But we really got to document the need and, find a community that wants to, work at it. And
But we had when we did for independence, we had to do our own. So we took all the cost of doing a comprehensive plan for the housing developments and all that. And every city pretty much has their own. And Arcadia must have just did one when they put that big development up. They had to, I would almost think.
I bet so.
So,
Yeah,
I mean,
so
there's information out there from almost a lot of communities.
Right.
Do we have to, we're not gonna go full headlong into this comprehensive study for the county, are we?
No, we are not, no. But we will do activities such as doing a regulatory analysis of our county zoning code and how that impacts affordability and the supply of housing. We will do an analysis on that. We will talk about what are accessory dwelling units, what it is, pros and cons of implementing that in a community, and maybe talking about, is that something we want to proceed with, and adding in regulatory reforms to make that more allowable in some way. So we'll have that big picture discussion.
Mike, can you define an accessory dwelling unit?
Years ago, some people would call that the mother-in-law house, so it's essentially an additional dwelling space for other family members to live in. So essentially, someone will have their own space, but for affordability and support, and yet still be close to that family member for support. So that could be elderly parents, it could be an adult child with accessibility issues. There's just a lot of things that go along with that, and there's in the last week or so I've obtained some resources or connections to reach out to people and identified some communities that have revised their code. So I have those, and I'll be reaching out to people and taking a look at this issue. But accessory dwelling units, it's kind of a lot of cities have dealt with it. And one of the things I want to find out is what have rural communities in the state done so far. I think mostly it's been a city thing, but families live in rural communities as well. And some of these things that larger cities have done can be also applied to the cities and villages of Trempealeau County. So we can pull together these resources and play an educational role to have the cities and village consider that, and maybe cities and villages want to pursue that route as well. So maybe one of the, maybe there's a model ordinance out there. As I continue to work on this, we'll learn more things.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Future agenda items. Looks like we've got one. Park? Anybody else?
Buzz, this is Jean. I've got the Great River Road update, and I also have a question for Mike.
Oh, okay, let's go there first then.
Mike, after listening to the discussion back and forth about the park and the changes and updates, is there a way that a timeline could be created that shows the committee this was done on this date and just a little bit of information on things, so maybe the committee members that are newer, or even for me to refresh my memory, even though I write my own notes to go back through, could be available. And again, this is not throwing anybody to the bus. I'm just thinking for clarity for everyone. that could
A
maybe
timeline
help
on all
for
park
future
activities?
discussion.
Are
No,
you looking
no,
at a
no,
timeline
just,
for all parks activities?
No, just of maybe like when a huge project was done, like the door was changed and we did it this way. Is there some way just to put something simple for committee members, for they can understand, all of us can understand better when things were done?
I guess we
Just
could.
like last year.
I guess we could. We do have the minutes on hand. That would be really accessible for everyone right out of the gate without us having to create a new items. But we certainly can put together a summary of what's gone on in 2023.
I think you do that
and I
already. Don't, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. If committee members doesn't think it's appropriate, that's fine. The other thing is, just to let you guys know, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife is turning 100 years, the Flyway next year, and the new person, Dave, could you please email me his information? I will forward the 100th anniversary information to him, and perhaps he would like to work with the Refuge on doing something at the park for next year, since it's turning 100. That would be really good, not only partnership, but promotion of Pittrick Park.
If you, are you asking me to give you the contact information for our new parks person?
A new man.
Yeah, if you want to send me the information, Jeannie, then when Matthew's on the county email system, I'll share that with him and connect you with him.
Okay, that would be great. And a couple other things, our visitor guide sales are going great. We've got tons and tons of earned media for Trempealeau County. Travel Wisconsin, which is the Department of Tourism, was in the area last couple months filming for their fall campaign. So our counties, the 8 counties of Wisconsin Great River Road, will be showcased. We got approved for 2 of our grants through the Federal Highway Administration. One for marketing, and the other one is for the Discovery Campus, which I've told you guys about the last couple of meetings. The Discovery Campus is going to be in La Crosse, and it will have one whole wing that will work specifically on transportation on the 8 counties, which is Highway 35, technically Wisconsin Great River Road. Economic development, it's not, but it is. Toad's Cove that burned down had their groundbreaking yesterday, which is great. So they're coming back. They chose to rebuild, which is fabulous for our area and obviously for them as a business and the other businesses. We are joining with Wisconsin Department of Transportation for the Discover Media Works with Discovery Wisconsin show, which will be about all the counties. It'll also be digital and social. There's going to be a huge hiccup in 2025, 2026 because the Trempealeau Bottoms, Highway 35, the 3 bridges, which we call the Trempealeau Bottoms, are going to be closed because they had to be going to need to be replaced. So there's going to be a lot of marketing and promotion, changing people around on Highway 30 or 53. So we can all work together on that, so we can still get people up Highway 53, up 93. to the northern community and obviously then into Eau Claire. DNR just advised us they are going to pave the road, Sullivan Road, which leads to Perot State Park, which is fabulous because we've had a lot of issues with that. And then the last thing is there any information that you guys worked on with IT in regards to our conversation last month about the website and getting more information specifically on tourism and economic development for Trumpealeau County?
Gene, remind me specifically of what you're talking about.
What we all talked about last month was, and I believe Lori had brought it up as well, is to get more info. When you go to co.trempealeau.wi.us, obviously it's a government website, which we all understand. However, even though tourism is at the top part, it doesn't like jump out wow at you where people go, and people don't think. Some people, for the most part,
I think that she's referring. I think Jean's referring to we had a little bit of conversation regarding having a standalone tourism site and making it look more tourism-ish. So Jean, the answer to that is no, we haven't made progress on that. That'll need to be a winter project, and we'll explore potential options, but to do significant changes on the current county website, we don't have a whole lot of options, so it's going to have to take, if we really want to go that direction, we're going to have to come up with a whole new concept, and 2024 may or may not be the right year for that.
I think what we had said at the last meeting was that we were going to invite IT to discuss what options we had available to us with regard to making the tourism website or linking or doing, like, what are our options? And I think that that's probably good to pursue maybe January-ish so that we can understand what capabilities are. That's my recollection, at least.
I can tell you this. I can tell you this. We're substantially limited in what we can do with the current county content management system, which is the way we update the website and stuff like that. So, believe me, I'm right with everybody that wishes we had a better looking website, but this is the best we're going to get with what we got with the county. If we go outside of this, then we're going to have to find somebody that, can either totally design from the ground up a website, and that's going to run into some substantial costs. Can't tell you off the top of my head what they are, but it's something that I pretty much have an idea of like how I think we need to spend our tourism marketing for next year, and I don't think there's money available. I think if we're going to pursue a website, we need to figure out what the cost would be, and then I think we need to take that into account with the budget request that we make to county board next year for 2025.
Is it possible, though, that I guess, what's our contract with our current internet provider? Do we even know? Are they already looking at something different potentially?
Right, we'll find out that from IT. Those are good questions.
Yeah, and I guess that's where I'm saying, could we just bring them here to update us on
Sure.
that information?
I'd like them to be put on the January agenda, please.
Got it noted. We'll do it.
Thank you.
And while we're discussing the website, this is Doreen Olson again. Once you get on the correct one, I could find the agenda.
I will say that the meeting minutes are behind, though. The last meeting minutes out there are August, so.
Because they weren't signed. They can't go up.
It's on me.
Oh, okay, all right then.
Bureaucratic red tape.
Got it.
So they will be.
Okay.
You have broad shoulders. Okay, let's go to future agenda and then finish that up. We want to get those bids in for the heating at the shelter. I saw that. Introduce Matt. We definitely need a rec pond update. County budget updates, is there interest in having something there? Because we should have a county budget approved by December, is that?
Yes.
tentative?
Yeah, if things go as anticipated,
Okay.
yes.
Bob, did you have an additional one?
Yeah, I see that the bathrooms are down at the county hospital at Farm Progress Days. And if we're gonna have an intention, if they're gonna put outside privy in, you know, during the warm months, so people can still use that park.
Well, I guess we need to hear from the committee. You know, my understanding of the agreement we have is that's a healthcare center responsibility, and of course, we had that discussion earlier this summer. And there is minutes, the healthcare center minutes said that they paid for the removal of those facilities. So they made the decision to pay for that, and decided also that if a privy is needed, and this is according to the minutes, that they would provide a privy if needed from their funds. That's in the healthcare center minutes.
Basically, it's a wayside park. Most people, when they use a wayside park, is to get out and stretch, go to the bathroom, especially if you got kids.
Right? And the healthcare center said they would provide that, according to their minutes.
We should try to get ahold of, we should try to get ahold of somebody on the committee that would bring it up to them, so we can get some confirmation of it, one way or the other, so we don't have the same conversation in June again, saying, well, I thought they would.
I can
and
certainly
nobody
I can make a call over to Jerry Dietz and just tell him that the committee was asking what, if they had any intention of putting bathrooms out there, and see what he says.
Yeah.
And report back to you.
Sounds good, thank you.
Sounds good. Okay. Any other future agenda items, folks? Next meeting date is December 5th at 8:30 in this room. And with that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All in favor? Aye. Adjourn.